Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Sunday, the 6th of February, 2022. I am Joe Sarvadi, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here to go over two slates with you, for the price of one. We've got a 3-game early slate that we're going to go through game by game, and then a 5-game night slate. So hopefully we can sweep everything on FanDuel, Yahoo, and Draftkings for all the slates that we play here, both early and late. What I will say is last night we'll touch on for a second here. Wearing the all black today, as you can see, it was just one of those nights where, man, everything that could go wrong did. And man, it was my worst NBA slate of the season. So that says a lot because there are times you'll have a guy scratched or injured or whatever the case may be, but this was just craziness. So I wore my all black. I pouted last night, talked about a little bit in Discord, but the beauty of daily fantasy sports is yesterday is gone. I can't, even if I finish first in those contests, those don't mean anything today, and which I did not. And even in maybe a contest where I could have finished last out of 33, I don't think that's ever happened to me. But you know what? We own up to everything here on Coach Talk. We are an open book. We celebrate tons and tons of victories, and it is only fair to also share when we hit the skids. So not even going to go over the stuff from yesterday. It's just ancient history. Flush it. It's gone. And now today we are going to just absolutely get after it. And I love this little double slate dip here. 3 games in the first one and 5 games in the evening one. So very excited to get after it today and certainly make amends from yesterday and get back onto a hot streak here. So hopefully the all black outfit goes to all light colors for tomorrow. That's the definite plan. All right. I appreciate everybody joining in and listening in today. I know the NFL guys out there are going bonkers because there's no NFL, but I did see a lot of chatter in our Discord about people playing the Pro Bowl. So good luck with that. I hope it works out for you. That's got to be a tough one for sure. But hey, do what you got to do. But if not, dive into this NBA with us, man. You got it all day. We've got 3 games at 3:30 for that early slate, Eastern. So that's beautiful. They all start at the same time. And then the night slate's 5 games, 3 games at 6, 1 at 7, and 1 at 9. So, a little bit different timing. People always forget that the main slate in the evening is an hour earlier on Sundays. So definitely set yourself a reminder for that. The other nice thing is we don't have many back-to-backs here. We've only got Chicago on the first night on the early slate and then Milwaukee on the second night on the late slate. Everybody else is on an island game. There's only 5 games tomorrow for a Monday. So we get a good look at where everybody's at here today and then brace for the trade deadline. We've got Thursday is the trade deadline, the 10th. So the next 4 days are going to be very helter-skelter, a lot of trades, guys sitting, but we'll be on top of that. We saw that first trade go through where Portland sent Covington and Powell over to the Clippers. So we'll see a lot more coming down the line here. And so stay in tune with us, and we'll keep you posted on all of that. All right, we're going to dive right into this baby with the first game in the early slate. It's the Philadelphia 76ers and the Chicago Bulls. Philadelphia is favored by 2. It's a 219.5 total. Really good game here to start off the day. 110.75 implied for Philly, 108.75 for the Chicago Bulls. Philadelphia comes in 31-21, Chicago 33-19. Injuries, Thibault questionable, which is important. Their key defender there. And then also Korkmaz, who is questionable. So we'll find out about those two before lock. Milton and Simmons remain out for Chicago. The big question mark there is Zach LaVine. and Kobe White. So two of the key backcourt guys for Chicago. Again, we should have that news. We will have that news before lock. The guys out, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Mr. Jones, and Mr. Williams still remain out. So similar scenario there for the guys that have been out, but 4 guards there, if you will, Philadelphia and Chicago, 2 each that we need the information on. Statistically speaking, again, Chicago's on the first night of a back-to-back, so a little bit of maybe the reason why we're getting Kobe White and Zach LaVine is questionable, so we'll see what that pans out to. Philly Island game for them. Pace, Philadelphia, slow 27th. Chicago, middle of the pack, if you will, 13th. Defensively, Philadelphia is 11th. They had jumped into the top 10 and then slipped 1 spot back. Chicago's only 20th, which is surprising. A lot of people think Chicago's a really sound defensive team, but with some of the injuries and a little bit of interior issues, they are not the best defensive team on the board by any stretch. All right, so let's take a look at this game a little bit. Obviously, we need the news on those 2 players for each side to determine a lot. But there are some good things. You've got Tyrese Maxey, who's up to 7-4. He's been very good, but he's probably going to get to Sunmu defense, who has proven that he can defend perimeter very, very well. Seth Curry was back the last game, a little underwhelming. He's at 5K. Tobias Harris at 8K for pay-up opportunity here. You have the matchup of 2 centers playing great basketball. Joel Embiid, 12K, a tough one, but Vuk is busted the 10K number. Haven't seen that in a while. Vuk is 10-1, and he deserves to be. He had back-to-back phenomenal games. So he's a guy that we definitely, will consider. But, man, at over 10K against Embiid, that's a hard pill to swallow for me. DeMar DeRozan could be a key play on the slate, especially if LaVine sits. He's 9-6, certainly considering him. I've been playing Javonte Green at 4-4 as a value piece, and he has not let me down of late. He has been very steady. He contributes in a lot of different areas, and I think he's a nice little value piece here. Dosunmu, same thing. He is up to 6'2", so it's a little bit more of a commitment salary-wise there, but he certainly has deserved, some of that recognition and some ownership as well. So an interesting game. I think it's a fun game, and I definitely want some exposure, but I'm not going to nail it down until I know about the 2 guys on each side that are questionable. All right, we go to we've got a couple of big spreads here on these other 2 games. They're actually the 2 biggest for obviously this 3-game slate, the second and third biggest for the whole slate. But we're working on just the early only slate here, the 3-gamer. And these 2 games are both terrific. So that will also knock the ownership down a little bit on Philadelphia and Chicago. It's the Brooklyn Nets and the Denver Nuggets. Denver -6, 229.5 total, 111.75 for Brooklyn, 117.75 for Denver. Brooklyn comes in 29-23. Denver is 28-24. We obviously have some very important tags here. How about James Harden? Questionable. We know he missed the last game. Interesting to see. Is he healthy? Is he in the trade talks? What's going on there? We definitely need that news. Also, Nicholas Claxton. He is questionable. So those 2 definitely affect the rotations here. The guys that are out for Brooklyn already, Aldridge, Durant, Harrison, Millsap. For Denver, we've got a probable tag on Aaron Gordon and Austin Rivers. I expect both of them to play. Canchar and Murray remain out for Denver. So a couple of things here. Brooklyn 5th in pace, Denver 22nd. So nice pace up for Denver, opposite direction for Brooklyn. Defensively, 2 teams that have underachieved of late. They're both fallen out of the top half of the NBA defensive efficiency rankings. Brooklyn is 17th and Denver is 19th. So we've got some good opportunities here. we do need to see that news on Harden for sure. If Harden sits, a lot of attention going to Kyrie Irving. Last time Harden sat, I went to Kyrie with a big majority of DFS players, and he was just atrocious. So I know, recency people are going to be a little sour there. He is 10-2, Kyrie. So I'm not sure. I know it's probably a smart play to go back to him and not let that one game throw you off, but he just did not look great. So I'm hoping Harden plays, actually, so it takes that temptation of playing Irving out of there for me. Patty Mills at 5-3, again, with Harden out. He's usually steady as a rock, and he pays off his salary pretty easily. Kessler Edwards, getting a little bit sick of this gentleman. He gets so much attention. He grabs ownership. He's cheap. He's 3-7 today, but he just doesn't seem to get over the top. I'm really a little bit wary of how his minutes are going to be run now. He just isn't taking advantage of such a golden opportunity with these minutes. James Johnson could be in the mix as a starter here. He would be a great value play at 3-6. It'd be nice to know on Nick Claxton too. If Nick Claxton's in at 4-4, we know that he's definitely a viable candidate to smash that number. So the interior defense, a little shaky for Brooklyn here with some of their guys out. You're probably going to see even a little Blake Griffin off the bench. Not that he's really playable to me, because they're going to have to try to deal with the Joker. So that's the big problem for Brooklyn. Other than that, that's really it. If, let's get that Harden news. We'll have it because all three of these early games start at 3:30 Eastern. For Denver, just start right with the Joker. I mean, he's 12-6, which is a really rough price, but on a 3-game slate, I can't pass him up. He's my lock and load. I'm playing him in everything and just going to make it work from there. I mean, it's just too good of a matchup. Brooklyn's a little thin inside. Just the pace up for them. It's just a great spot. So I'm just going to do what I believe has to be done on a slate of a 3-game size and just plug the Joker in. Other guys to consider here, Will Barton at 6-3. Gordon at 5-5. If you catch him on the right game, he can really help the cause. And really after that, I don't really want to go deep with Morris or Jeff Green. They're utilizing Najee, Forbes, Rivers, and Highland off the bench quite a bit. So rather stick with the Joker with some consideration to Barton and Gordon. So this should be a good game. It's going to be an important game in this 3-game set. And once we get that Harden news, we can shuffle it out. But it's Joker time for me today for sure. All right, the third game of the early slate, again, also at 3:30. It's the Detroit Pistons and Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota, possible blowout alert. They're 12.5-point favorites already. That might go up. 230, nice total though. 108.75 is all for Detroit. How about this Minnesota number, though? 121.25. Not a lot of 120-plus numbers this year in the NBA. Very seldom has that happened. So you have to have exposure on a 3-game slate to a team with that high of an implied total. So the question will be, where are we going to go with Minnesota? Not are we going to, because you have to have some exposure here. Detroit comes in 12-40, Minnesota 27-25. Cade Cunningham, questionable. So there's our other monster tag that we need to get confirmation on. So thank goodness with all these key players questionable in these 3 early games, we will have all that news before we lock in, because there is no swap once it locks. All 3 games start at the same time. So that last 30 minutes before lock for our members that are listening, be prepared, because it's going to be down to the wire getting all these lineups and confirmations as we plug those in. So get in there, get your contest reserve, get an initial build on based what I'm saying here, plug the Joker in and all that stuff. So then once we release those full lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo, you'll be able to fill them in And then you'll have time to react on DraftKings, where we give out that coach's clipboard of 5 players, and then which is your core, and then a group of others. Joker will be in that core, by the way. So Cunningham news important. We have 3 guys out for Detroit also. Josh Jackson, Livers, and Pickett. And then Minnesota, we've got probable tags on Beverly and D'Angelo Russell, so we're counting them in. Balmaro and Okogie are questionable for Minnesota, not that they're really in the rotation there very much whatsoever. All right, this game. So Minnesota, we were talking about where do we go here. Cat is going to be, my choice is Joker over Cat here. You pretty much can't go with both. Maybe you can, where you can roster 2 centers, but that's a lot of salary on a 3-game slate to try to squeeze in enough value. So for me, I'm looking more towards Pat Bev at 5'2", D'Angelo Russell 7'6", Anthony Edwards 8'4", Jared Vanderbilt 5'6". Those are the 4 guys that I'm tossing around, depending on whether I'm going to be able to utilize a mid-price guy in a Russell or Edwards, or if I have to go value with Beverly or Vanderbilt. And a lot of that will depend on the news that we get in the earlier games of who's in and who's out of those important pieces. And then on the Detroit side, if Cunningham plays at 8'3", he's playable. If he sits, all of that usage funnels to other guys, and they become very strong plays. Definitely considering in that spot Corey Joseph at 4'2", Sadiq Bey at 6'5", Jeremy Grant at 6'8". Isaiah Stewart at 5'1", I'm going to steer from. The price is good. He's been getting some minutes, but I'm just concerned of the foul trouble against Cat because Stewart has a tendency to have that happen. If Cunningham sits, I'm expecting Diallo to jump back into that lineup, starting lineup. He did very well the last time and certainly is in consideration. You'll get a little run from guys like Killian Hayes and Kelly Olynyk, Trey Lyles, but they're not playable either. And even Rodney Magruder might get a little run. But for me, if Cunningham's in, he's considered. If not, it's basically Joseph, Bey, and Grant where my attention is going to go. So I love this 3-game early slate. I think it's a really doable slate here where you've got big numbers to work with. You've got some good rotations that should really pan out for us. So, all right, that is it for the 3-game early slate. Now we're going to go to the 5-game main slate starting at 6 o'clock. It is the Atlanta Hawks and the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas -3. It's a 221 total, 109 implied for Atlanta, 112 for the Dallas Mavericks. Atlanta comes into this game 25-27. Dallas comes in 30-23. Injury designations: Collins questionable, which is a big piece of news. Gallinari questionable. Lou Williams questionable. So 3 rotational guys we need news on. Again, this is the early game of that main slate at 6. So we will have that news prior. The only questionable guy for Dallas is Maxi Kleber. And then we have 3 guys out: Brown, Hardaway, and Porzingis. So looking at this game, we've got, I don't know if I went over this in the last game, so I'm going to mention it really quickly here. The statistics for Detroit is 7th in pace, Minnesota 2nd. I did not mention that. So that's why it's a 230 total. That's why it's a key game on that early slate. And then defensively, they're 23rd, Detroit 14th, Minnesota. So much faster pace in that Detroit-Minnesota game. Not great D, so focus on that one. All right, let's look at this statistical analysis here for Atlanta. Dallas. Atlanta's 18th in pace, Dallas 28th. So really, with that slow of a pace, 221 is a pretty healthy total for that Atlanta-Dallas game. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you. I thought that'd be in the 217, 218 range. So interesting number there. Atlanta is 28th defensively, so that might be part of the reason the number's higher. But Dallas is 5th. So, you get some good defense there and a little bit slower play. As far as this matchup goes, Trae Young at 10-1 certainly has been playing good ball. Can be considered here for a pay up on this main slate. You've got some real bargains in Kevin Huerter at 4.2, DeAndre Hunter at 4.7, and Bogdanovich at 5.5. All three have had some strong games, but they're all riskier, maybe almost to the point of GPP because they can sink the ship. John Collins, if he's in at 6.6, is cheap for him. Clint Capella has not been good, and he's been splitting a lot of time. He's 5.7. You know we like to attack the interior defense of the Mavs, especially if Maxey sits. He's the best interior defender for Dallas, really, especially with Porzingis out and no shot blocking there. So, I'm tempted to look at Capella. He just hasn't been the normal Clint Capella that we've seen. But at 5.7, it definitely is worth a flyer, especially if John Collins sits, because it's going to bring a lot of rebounds up. Now, Capella's never the guy to get you 35 plus minutes, but he may be able to get enough of that in 25 to 28 minutes, depending. So we'll weigh that out as the slate goes on. As far as Dallas, of course, you can pay up for Luka. He's 12K. Atlanta's defense is terrible. Definitely a smash spot. It's a home game for Dallas. Certainly in consideration for me. I mean, he's been in one of his grooves, and, I don't know if they'll probably put DeAndre Hunter on him, which could cause him a little bit of trouble. I think Hunter's a fantastic defender, but, when Luka's going like he is, they'll just run a high pick for him and have him switch off, make the other team switch off, and then he'll usually just abuse whoever that is they're picking on. So Luka definitely is in consideration for me. I think he's got, deserves that 12K price. And if I can make it work with value, and as value opens up throughout the day, we may be able to get there. Jalen Brunson at 6.5. He's been a little up and down lately, and his price is up a little bit, but not out of the question. Not interested in any of the other Mavs. You're going to get a lot of mixing and matching with Finney Smith, Powell, Bullock. Bullock's been good, though. Bullock has been on fire lately. He's 4.8, which isn't super cheap, but he's making his threes and getting more minutes. So if you did need a flyer value guy, Bullock would be the guy for the Dallas Mavericks. All right, we go on to the other 6 o'clock game. There's 3 of them, actually. I'm sorry. So the second of the 3 6 o'clock games, which is good because we'll have the majority of the news at lock for both slates, the early and the main. There's a 7 o'clock and a 9 o'clock game that will be the swap games, but we're going to have more news than normal here. So a little more relaxing as far as figuring out lineups. All right, Pacers at Cleveland. Cleveland -6, 216.5 total, 105.25 implied for Indiana, 111.25 for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Pacers come in 19-35, Cleveland 32-21. Questionable tags for Indiana, Malcolm Brogdon. What else is new? He's been questionable all season, and Domantas Sabonis. So talk about needing some news here, and hard to determine this game at all until we have that news, which we'll have. So that is good. The other questionable guy is Goga Bitadze. So not only the starting center questionable, the backup center questionable, guys that we know that are out are Jackson, McConnell, Turner, and Warner. So all about the news here. As far as Cleveland goes, also Darius Garland questionable. So that's everything to do with all of the usage basically on that squad. And then doubtful Lauri Markkanen, I'm counting him as out. So, I mean, how much analysis can you do on a game when the 3 best players possibly are all out? I will say this, though, if Brogdon and Sabonis sit, LeVert, the way he stepped up the other day, man, he finally decided he was going to play Karis LeVert ball and just take over. So hopefully that's a trend that's going to continue. But if Brogdon comes back, even if it's for 15 or 20 minutes, it's definitely going to hurt that Levert production. So we'll see how it flies. Right now, let's see. We have Indiana 17th in pace, Cleveland 24th. So that's not helpful. Defensively, we've got Indiana 26th, Cleveland 4th. So Cleveland should be able to take advantage of that porous Indiana defense. If Garland's in at 8-8 with no restrictions, consider him. Absolutely. Other than that, though, we got to look at a bunch of different things here. First of all, Jetty Osman, dead to us after that last fiasco. Mr. Osman, you're a nice player, nice guy, but you will not see a Coach Talk lineup for a while. Sit down, sir. All right. Other than that, though, Kevin Love's been on fire off the bench at 7-2. You always have the option of the two bigs, Mobley at 7-6, who's been underwhelming the last couple of weeks. But Jared Allen's been playing some ball, and he's 8-4. So depending on the interior of Indiana, let's just say Sabonis and Goga are out again, then we're talking about this craziness of Terry Taylor at center. He's not a center. He's like a small forward, basically, power forward at best. So, it's going to be one of those things like Vuk the other day. I mean, they can't stop anything in the interior. So, if they don't have anything in there, then Allen's got to be a plug and play, and you got to consider Mobley as well. So let's see how the news pans out here. Definitely going to be spending some salary on the big or bigs for Cleveland, depending on the situation. And if this game stays fairly close, Cleveland's only favored by 6, especially if Garland sits, then I think this could be a key pivotal game, even though it has such a low over-under. If Garland plays, though, and one of the bigs, Sabonis or Batazzi plays, it could end up being just a one-off game. So 100% news dependent, but again, very key. And we'll be following this all along in our Discord. If you want to become a member at Coach Talk, it's dfscoachtalk.com. You can join for as little as a 3-day membership for $10. We would love to have you. So we'll be following that throughout the day very closely. All right, the third 6 o'clock game are the Boston Celtics at the Orlando Magic. Boston favored by 9. It's only a 215.5 total, which is the lowest of the day. So that is not a fun number. 112.25 implied for Boston, only 103.25 for the Orlando Magic. Boston comes in 29-25, Orlando 12-42. Again, very concerned about blowout possibilities here. Boston is super healthy. Nobody out for them except Bol, who's had surgery. So they're healthy. They're ready to go. And that's not good news for Orlando. For Orlando, you've got a doubtful tag on Hampton, which he's at least getting close to being back. And then out as normal, Carter Williams, Fultz, Isaac Moore. That's been the case there for quite some time. As far as statistically, Boston's 23rd in pace, Orlando 16th. That's why you've got a low total. And then defensively, Boston's all the way to 3rd. They're playing fantastic defense. Orlando's 22nd, so not so much there. This game just scares me. I'm not going to be on it very much at all. I think Boston could blow them out. I know and I always mention people that say, Coach, you don't think of a blowout in DFS. Well, you know what? As a game scripter, I always explain it. I mean, I stand by my guns. It pays me off more than it doesn't. And I just think Boston's lopsided here. I would take them minus the points if it's single digits at 9. But anyway, with that into consideration, Boston's good defense, the bad pace here, some overpriced guys with Tatum 10-6 and Brown at 9-2. And even Anthony at 7-1, Wendell Carter at 6-9. Just not interested in those guys. I don't like the matchup. I don't like the game set. And to me, this just becomes somewhat of an unplayable game. I will say Jalen Suggs at 5'9" has gotten my attention lately. He's playing well. Robert Williams at 7'5" on the other side of the ball has also shown some upside here. But this is more than likely going to be a pass game for me, and I'll just play this evening slate as a 4-gamer in essence. All right, the 2 games that do not start at lock, 1 hour after lock at 7 o'clock is the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Houston Rockets. We have some really good numbers here. This is the winner of the day as far as largest total. Pelicans are favored by 5.5. It's a 231.5 total. 118.5 for New Orleans and 113 for the Houston Rockets. So some really juicy numbers there. Pelicans are 20-32. Houston's 15-37. Questionable tag here, Josh Hart. Important piece there for their rotation. Guys that are already out, Hernan Gomez, Luzada, Temple, and Cheeseburgers Williamson. For Houston, it is Garuba and Wall out. I've said Garuba and Wall like every game out all year. Why I keep saying it, I don't know. But if their designation ever changes, I'm going to be stunned. But other than that, Houston's got all their youngsters. They're playing ready to go and get it done. Pelicans are 19th in pace, but Houston is number 1. Houston's our new darling. It switches between Houston and Charlotte. Houston is the number 1 pace and 30th defense. So when you get that double, you got to roster guys in that sense for sure. So it's pretty much been Houston and Charlotte having fun with being tops in pace and at the bottom in defense, but definitely something to take advantage of. The Pelicans are 25th in defense, so they're not exactly shutting anybody down. So, it's a key game. It's not a hot take here by any stretch, but of course, this is a great game for DFS. You're going to have a lot of possessions, a lot of DFS points to be had. All kinds of value all over the place too. You could go Devontae Graham at 5.3. If Josh Hart sits, it shuffles the deck a little bit. It definitely raises up Herb Jones at 5.4. He's been terrific for me throughout the year. Joe Val at 8.3, certainly in play. If you want to pay up to Brandon Ingram at 8.7, I think it's also a wise decision. Houston really doesn't have great defense. It'll get Jayshawn Tate probably on Brandon Ingram, so that's a little bit of a deterrent, but Tate hasn't been just the complete dead stopper that he was last season or even at the beginning of this year. So not sure why he's slowing down a little bit, if they're figuring him out on his weakness or if he's hurt a little bit. I'm not sure, but he's still a good defender, definitely a plus defender. And I would assume he guards Ingram, which at 8.7, makes that decision a little bit tougher. Other than that, depending on whether Hart's in or out, they've been playing Jackson Hayes, going 2 bigs at times. I don't see that happening a ton in this game, but if it does, if we see Coach speak or any beat writer talk at 5K, you can consider Hayes in that spot. Alvarado's been really terrific off the bench at 3.7. If he's going to do a timeshare with Graham, that's a deterrent. But if for some reason, he's going to get good minutes at that price, he's definitely going to get you steals. We know that much. So certainly a lot of options from the Pelicans and some good value there. And speaking of value, how about the Rockets pricing? Porter 5.7, Jalen Green 4.6, Eric Gordon 4, Jayshawn Tate 4.9. Christian Wood's the only one that has a tag on him at 8.5. So really think a lot of those guys are in play. I can see myself with 2 Rockets here, depending on, the matchup with Hart. I want to see if he's in. But, Porter at 5.7, very playable. And I think Christian Wood at 8.5 is a smart pay up. I know Joe Val can get big inside. He's strong, but Christian Wood's going to take him away from the basket. He's got more of a power forwards game that can face up. He doesn't need to try to bang with Joe Val inside. So it does increase both values because Joe Val's going to get a lot of those rebounds, but Christian Wood, I think, is going to be able to score on the perimeter and mid-range against Joe Val. So Wood and Joe Val both in play here. They're both pay ups, and then some really good value guards. All right, last game on the slate. 9 o'clock game, Milwaukee Bucks at the LA Clippers. Milwaukee is on the second night of a back-to-back. That's the only other game other than Chicago on the early slate that are playing back-to-back games today, which is very unusual. But Milwaukee, will it affect things here? That's the million-dollar question. That and the fact that, we could get those Clippers, new Clippers players in the mix. So that's news that we're going to be working on throughout the day. All right, to start out, 227.5 is a nice number here for two teams that are pretty solid. Milwaukee's a 4.5-point road favorite, 116 implied for Milwaukee, 111.5 for the LA Clippers. Milwaukee comes in 33-21, the Clippers 27-27, and that trade is really going to help them. Milwaukee has two people out, Hill and Lopez. Other than that, they're a full go, except on what Coach Bud wants to do on this second night of a back-to-back. We will see. Clippers have Zubac questionable, so we need that news. Jay Scrubb doubtful. And then we have two guys probable, and that's Covington and Powell, the two new Clippers. So how is that going to affect that rotation? What it's going to do is eliminate a lot of ownership for me, because now you're talking about the fact that Morris and Batum, Covington, Powell, if Zubac is in or not, Ibaka, you've got all kinds of guys to split time there, and not sure what he's going to do. I would assume he's going to ease them in. So in essence, that whole group is out of play for me. You could end up rostering one of those guys and they play 15 minutes. So let's let the dust settle and see what that rotation is going to look like before we gamble there. Also, by the way, for the Clippers, George, Leonard, and Preston are out. So let's talk about how this is going to break out. First of all, for Milwaukee, I'm going to tread a little lightly with Giannis here just because of the back-to-back. Holiday and Middleton are not priced that great, but would like to consider one or the other, as well as Bobby Portis. I think those are your go-tos here. Spend up somewhere on the Milwaukee side and get it to work. For the Clippers, I'm more likely to go towards a Reggie Jackson or an Amir Coffey. Those would be the two guys that I would look at first. Again, as I mentioned, that huge conglomeration of new wings and somewhat bigs is definitely going to, shake the kettle. It's also going to hurt guys like Hartenstein, possibly Terrence Mann, Brandon Boston, Luke Kennard. Those guys are all going to lose minutes. So I'm sticking to the backcourt, which I don't think will get a lot of interruption with Jackson and Coffey. And then again, just letting the rest of this sort of rotate into figuring out, what the rotation is. So that's what I'm looking at. It's a good card, both of them. I think for a 3-game and a 5-game, to have two slates to go after like this, it's going to be a good day. So very excited to bounce back from yesterday and make today a super winning one. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. You can join us at dfscoachtalk.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, give us a quick comment, and while you're at it, hit that little bell in the upper corner. That'll alert you when any of our podcasts post. We have an awesome NFL Super Bowl podcast this week with special guests and all kinds of stuff going on there. We've got our golf podcast coming out. And then, of course, we have 7-day-a-week NBA podcasts every day. We're also going to do some live streaming. We're going to do some collaborations, again, with Gundacker, where I'll be jumping on his live stream. He'll be jumping on our podcast. And we're also going to fire up a live stream coming up within the next week as well. So all kinds of things happening here at Coach Talk. We appreciate everybody that listens every day. And, we don't take any of that for granted. And we appreciate all our members. So thank you so much for listening in. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And we'll definitely be back tomorrow when we look to crush it in NBA DFS.